I'm going to talk about a subject called cybersecurity or data protection. In fact, the cybersecurity, privacy, security challenges are growing around the world due to the drastic growth of cybercrimes. Not the least is the worldwide ransomware assault last year that crippled more than 200,000 victims in at least 150 countries all around the world. There was so many, of course, there were so many breaches of security other than this. For this, it was claimed by the European data protection supervisor, Giovanni, in 2017, that more than 121 countries all around the world have responded to the general data protection regulation that is set by the European countries, and they support this protection regulation. It is therefore a high time where the world would think about data protection, for looking forward to provide more security to restore trust by setting the world-wide standards. For this example, the GDPR of Europe is one of them. The national cybersecurity strategy set by the United Kingdom. Many variants of data protection legislation were put by the state, which varies from one state to the other. And many other countries, Australia, Japan, China, all countries have set some sort of rules for data protection. Jordan, where I come from, also they have their local version of the national cybersecurity strategy, which is a modified version localized of the United Kingdom. Cybersecurity goals are the protection of our information and information systems. Hence, cybersecurity can be defined as the protection of information systems against unauthorized people, and unauthorized access, modification of information, whether it is in processing, storage, or in transit, and against what is called the denial of service, which prevent authorized people from getting into the access to their own information. So these measures are necessary to detect, to document, and to counter such measures. Information privacy, if we define it, we can say that information security, privacy, or data privacy, is the relationship between collection and dissemination of data, technology, public expectation of privacy, and legal and political issues surrounding them. So information privacy is a right to control information that is released, that is to be released by persons. The space of cybersecurity, of course, as you all know, is open. It's the internet, it's fast, it's ready, it's available all the time. And as it is attackers everywhere are always ready to look for these computers and try to exploit them. As long as we are connected to the internet, of course, the process goes both ways. Either the computer is an object or a subject for anybody. And in the world we have two different types of attackers. Some attackers are really what we call is amateurs or just hobbyists. They want to just prove themselves. These are not very dangerous. They are look for making viruses, making some malware to prove that they are clever enough to see what other people are doing. Other attackers are there which are more serious and dangerous. They are the ones who are looking at you as a subject or object, an object that they want to attack. They want to stop your work. They want to do a lot of things that stop you from doing and exploiting you. The other type of attacks they do is going through your information, get the information, and use it somewhere else. For these information might include your name, your account, your address, and whatever. So, what security really means? It means a lot of things depending on the way you look at it, how you view it. It's either physical security, where you have to, it addresses really the protection of equipment, the protection of the premises, the protection of the whereabouts these equipments are. Other type is the personal security, where we have to protect the people who are working on these equipment, so whether they are persons, individuals, or group of users. Operation security is the security that is that addresses the use of the computer, the systems on the computers. Communication security, which is concerned with the protection of organization, communication, media, technology, and contents. Network security depends on our concerns with the network configurations, the lines, the buses, the whatever used for communication. And the most important one is the one that concerns us immediately. It is the information itself. So information security is a protection of information being processed or stored or in transit. Are we safe? Are we protected? In fact, some study a few years ago looked into the breach of security breach by sectors. We use the computer for every walk of life, for health, for education, for government, for accounting, for finance, and all the like. So in that year, the percentage of breaches of data were, as it is shown on this slide, where the state, the healthcare took the big share of or biggest share of the breaches in that year, then education, then government, then accounting, and so on, as you can see. So it's scattered all over the applications or associations or the use of the computer, data information. Again, this breach or these cyber crimes were scattered all over the world. And if we look at how they are scattered, or how the countries share. This is the slide of the top 20 countries. We can see that the States, 23% share cybercrime, then China, Germany, Britain, and so on, up to 1% Australia, and Israel and Argentina, and the rest of the world about 19%. So again, we can see that the cybercrime is more even in the well-developed countries. Again, are the data protected? If we look at the threats, security threats, from the point of view of the type of threat, we have phishing, we have viruses, or malicious codes, we have network scanning, probing, etc. We can see that phishing is 32%, then virus and malicious codes 29%, and so on. And it goes down up to the user account, others which are not so important, only 5%. So threats are there. If we look at just one type of threats, like malicious codes, and see their distribution all over the world, again we see the state is the first one, 37%, then China, then I don't know, I don't have it, I can see it very well, but it is also ranging from all over the world with different percentages, the highest in the United States. What kind of breaches? I mean, if we talk about breaches, I talked earlier about the ransomware. There are so many. I'm sure you, all of you, they have tens of examples of breaches of security. One of these breaches, if I just mentioned, is 2013. Adobe faced 2 attacks from cyber criminals who stole credit card data of 2.9 million customers, and its security team had discovered that these sophisticated attacks involving illegal access of customer information and source code of many Adobe products. In fact, their investigation showed that these criminals, they didn't reach to 2.9 million customers, but they have already gained or reached 38 millions of accounts, which were also encrypted and valid accounts. So this is one example. Another example is, for instance, the Facebook, Gmail, and Twitter, YouTube. In a period of a short period, there were 2,000 accounts were stolen or being breached. These 2 million, sorry, not 2,000, 2 million, and they are the approximate number for each of them is, as you can see, this is a very short time. Target market data breach, within a weekend selling, or 3 weeks of sale, they lost the account of 70 million customers. This was, Target is a retailer company, this is considered one of the biggest American consumer data breach. And in fact, this is it is believed that the hackers broke into the tailors market or network through another company, a company which was doing some electrical or ventilation or air conditioning business or work. Anyway, the National Security Agency's surveillance breach was very well known. Edward Snowden, as you all know about him, he has a high-profile Booz Allen company, a government contractor. He received a widespread headline for reaching data on the National Security Agency surveillance. This attack was an internal threat. It's not external. He's working at this agency. Snowden was with Booz Allen for 3 months. He's assigned a boss for a team in Hawaii. Snowden had access to top secret data and over time used a thumb drive to take thousands of confidential documents, which of course affected the NSA reputation. Many other breaches can be talked about, like fake offering, something like this is not here, but it's about 81%, like-jacking 7%, fake plug-in scam, etc. These threats really increase in each day and affects all nations. Critical infrastructure in various forms. Therefore, many governments and many organizations have taken some steps towards the stoppage of such thing by putting legislations and rules to really stop these threats or to measure these threats. These threats come in the form, as we have said, computer intrusion through hacking, whether it is active or passive, denial of service, or viruses and worms. This cybersecurity risk, yeah. This one doesn't work? Oh, I thought this is working. This cybersecurity risk were really growing since so many years, and there was a study by the British security consulting firm MI2G calculates that the number of malicious hacking attacks increased fourfold in the year 2000 to 2001. Then it was increasing steadily up to, if we come up to today, this study was a few years back. If we come to today, there will be millions of attacks in later years, as for sure. Cyber threats evolution, if we look at it, it started with viruses in the 70s, then breaking sites in the 90s, then malicious codes in 2000, then up to criminal jobs or criminal cyber crimes in the millennium, and so on. The cleanup cost of these cyber crimes, I mean, this is an example for cleanup. How does this these things affect the business or affect the financial record of the organizations? Only these two examples here. A virus affected 2.3 million computers. The cleanup of this effect was $460 million, and the lost productivity was $757 million. A cleanup was $1.1 billion, and the lost property was $1.5 billion. Love bugs 50 variants, 40 million computers affected, and the cost of both the cleanup and the lost productivity is 8.7 billion. So, and these are just examples of viruses. Their effect is really when they are played, they are very simple. They look innocent. For instance, Circum gives you a message: "Hi, how are you? I send you this file in order to have your advice. See you later," with an attachment. It's so innocent, but and also the NIMDA gives you some unclear message or nothing, garbage. But once you open the attachment, hell of things happen. Both these are Trojan horse or Trojan horse. The email has executable attachment with the various uploads. That will damage your computer, your data, and maybe stop your business at all. Denial of service attacks, of course, it's the attackers compromise one system and then start to send messages to other victim, messages that the victim cannot really cannot be service or cannot really it stops him, it cripples him from working. There's also an attack called distributed denial of service, where many computers are compromised, and at the same time they are controlled by the hacker who order them or control them to attack a victim, also flooded with messages and requests that it cannot handle. Spamming attacks, they are a bit simpler. They are just sending messages, sending out email messages in bulk. It's electronic junk, and you all know about it. It's only disturb you. You may delete, but you know it's disturbing. Information security threats can be looked at as in fact, act of human failure or accident or mistakes, compromise of intellectual property that's touching your privacy or copyright, act of espionage and trespassing, act of information extortion, blackmailing, act of sabotage, the destruction of data, software attack by viruses and malicious codes. The other threat is the force of nature, which is such as fires, floods, etc. Quality of service, deviation from service provider, like power down or the wide area network service failure, technical hardware failures or errors, which means that equipment failure, and technical software failure, bugs, codes, etc., and technology obsolescence. Some of our are lazy to update the operating system or a system he's using, and those old systems are usually not so protected against the attackers. So people are really the main or the biggest threat of information security, and we can say why, because we have weaknesses, like we forget, like we are sort of forgive So sometimes we were tired, sometimes, so we can be a risk to the computer or a threat. Social engineering, it's a system first manipulate the action of people. Social engineering, that somebody you trust, you ask him to give you some information, then from this information you can obtain access to some information on the computer. Procedures, of course, procedures always when we do any design, we have a blueprint, and these blueprints, most of us keep them somewhere. If somebody obtain them, then he can get to the point where he can use them against you. These are the source of, or the components of the information system. In fact, we are the source of the cyber attack system as well. Now, there are people have myths. Sometimes they think that, okay, if I have an antivirus, is my computer protected? The answer, of course, no, because as you know, viruses, antivirus can only remove part of the viruses, some 40 or 50%. They are activated. Antiviruses are can only act against something already known. So once the virus is released, somebody write antivirus to stop it. So it's always when the product only protect against computer viruses, that they are antiviruses produces product only protect against computer viruses. This is another thing, that on the attacks or the threats are not only viruses, because there are many other things. Another question is, my computer is behind a router. Am I safe? The answer is no. The router needs to be protected as well. And if you use wireless router, less secure. Okay, I'll go here. Another question or myth. I'm using. I don't use Windows. Am I safe, or do I need to worry? Of course, we know that Linux and Mac are generally safer for infection of viruses, but they are not safe for infection for other attacks, like what we talk about, the breaches. Most computers are working with Windows. That's why on Windows or operating systems, they have more attacks, because the attackers are working or developing some software to be used against Windows. The need for security is to protect, to protect the organization, to enable the safe operation of the application, and to protect the data the organization is using, collecting and using, and safeguard the technology assets in use at the organization. How do we know that our computer is compromised? In fact, depending on the malware, we don't. Is your computer really sluggish or slow? Yes, if it is sluggish or slow, then you might have a problem. Your computer might be breached, or you have viruses. The thing is, one must educate himself through things like Google, use external data storage, and reinstall operating system regularly. Some tips for protection of personal information, identification information. One has to minimize the personal identification information. to secure them, use some sort of kind of encryption or hiding, information hiding, safeguard the transfer, use a secure channel to transfer them from one to the other, and dispose of old ones. If you don't need them, dispose of them. In fact, lots of countries, I just said in the beginning, only yeah. So the UK National Cybersecurity Strategic work or have put on objectives to defend, use whatever available technology to defend your systems, to deter, put some regulations and follow the criminals to stop them from and develop new systems to go ahead, and they think that they have the ability to do that. In Jordan, I just go quickly to what we have. Also, they have similar things that really have 4 strategic objectives: to protect, to detect, and to respond, and to evolve. I just recall Charles Darwin saying, which is useful for survival: it's not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent ones, but the one most responsive to changes. So one has to use this sort of saying. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, and that's my last word. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.